Welcome back to Navigating Abundant Retirement. I'm Carol Dewey, founder of Perpetual Wealth Financial. And as always, my mission is to help you navigate the financial seas so you can get on with living. Today, I want to talk about something that almost every widow I've worked with has experienced. The feeling that you're constantly reacting to another letter in the mail, another form to sign, another phone call, another account statement, another decision, another responsibility. And if you've ever felt like you're just trying to keep your head above water during the first year after losing a spouse, I want you to know something. You're not doing it wrong. In fact, one of the biggest challenges widows face is that nobody gives them a roadmap. People bring casseroles, they send sympathy cards. They tell you they're sorry for your loss. But very few people explain what actually happens next. No one hands you a guidebook that says, here's what you'll likely face during the first month. Here's what tends to happen around 6 months. Here's what deserves your attention now and what can wait. Instead, everything seems to arrive at once. And because it all arrives at once, it feels like everything is urgent. Today, I want to change that. I want to walk you through what typically happens financially during the first year of widowhood. Not because every situation is identical, but because understanding the road ahead often makes the journey feel less overwhelming. And if you're currently somewhere in that first year, or maybe even several years beyond it, I hope this episode reminds you that you're not behind. You're navigating one of life's most difficult transitions. So let's talk about what that really looks like. The first 30 days is what I call survival mode. The first month after losing a spouse is often a blur. Many widows later tell me they barely remember portions of it. And honestly, that's understandable. You're grieving, you're exhausted, you're trying to process something your heart hasn't fully accepted yet. At the same time, practical responsibilities start showing up immediately. Funeral arrangements, death certificates, family notifications, employer notifications, insurance companies, banks, government agencies. It's a lot. And here's the first thing I want you to hear. The goal during the first 30 days is not optimization. The goal is stabilization. This is not the time to redesign your financial future. This is not the time to overhaul your investment strategy. This is not the time to sell the house because everything feels painful. This is the time to focus on immediate needs. Can the bills be paid? Is there access to cash? Are the right people being notified? Are the essential documents being gathered? That's enough. One of the biggest mistakes I see is women feeling pressured to make decisions while they're still in shock. You don't need to know the answer to every financial question in the first month. You just need to make sure the lights stay on and the immediate responsibilities are handled. Everything else can wait. And honestly, many things should wait. Then we enter months 2 through 6, when reality starts to set in. This period is often harder than people expect. In many ways, the support system begins to change. The visitors become less frequent. The phone rings less often. The meals stop arriving. People assume you're doing better because time has passed. But for many widows, this is when the reality of the loss starts becoming more tangible. And financially, this is often when the paperwork arrives in full force. Insurance proceeds, beneficiary paperwork, account transfers, retirement accounts, pension elections, Social Security adjustments, legal documents, tax notices. It can feel endless. I often describe this period as the administrative phase of grief. Because while everyone else is moving forward with their lives, you're suddenly managing an entire project that you never volunteered for. One woman told me, "Nobody told me widowhood came with a full-time job." I thought that was incredibly insightful because she's right. There's an enormous amount of administrative responsibility that comes with the loss of a spouse. And here's where many women start questioning themselves. They'll ask things like, I should be further along. I should have this figured out by now. I still haven't dealt with that account. I still haven't updated those documents. I want to challenge that thinking. You are not behind. You're dealing with dozens of decisions while carrying emotional weight that most people around you cannot fully see. Progress doesn't have to be fast. Progress just has to be progress. During this middle phase, several important financial questions often begin surfacing. Questions like, should I keep the house? Should I pay off the mortgage? Should I move money? Should I make changes to investments? Should I update my estate plan? Should I help my children financially? Should I retire now? Should I delay retirement? Notice something? Every one of those questions carries emotional baggage because financial decisions are rarely just financial. The house just isn't just a house, it's memories. The investment account isn't just numbers, it's security. The inheritance isn't just money, it's connected to someone you loved. That's why I encourage widows to slow down. Most major decisions benefit from clarity, and clarity usually improves with time. This doesn't mean avoid decisions forever. It means make decisions from understanding rather than fear. That's a very different place. Then we've got months 6 through 12, from reaction to planning. Somewhere around the 6-month mark, something often begins to shift. Not because the grief disappears. It doesn't. But because the initial flood of urgent tasks starts slowing down. And that's when many women begin asking different questions. Instead of, what do I need to do today? The question becomes, what do I want my future to look like? That's a significant transition because now we're moving from reaction to planning. This is often when conversations around retirement income become important. How much income do I need? Where will it come from? Am I going to be okay financially? Can I afford to stay in my house? What happens if healthcare costs increase? What if I live another 20 or 30 years? These are important questions. And unlike the early months, you're usually in a much better position emotionally to begin addressing them. This is also when estate planning deserves attention. Many widows discover their legal documents need updating, beneficiaries need reviewing, powers of attorney need changing, healthcare directives need revisiting. Again, not because something is wrong, but because life has changed, and your planning should reflect your current reality. Now I'd like to talk about something that doesn't appear on any financial checklist, the emotional timeline. Because one of the most damaging things widows do is compare their progress to someone else's. You hear things like, my friend seemed to be fine after 6 months. My neighbor moved on faster. I should be handling this better. But grief doesn't work that way. For many women, the first few months are pure shock. You're functioning because you have to. You're checking boxes, making arrangements, handling immediate needs. Then around months 3 through 6, exhaustion often arrives. The adrenaline wears off, the reality sets in, and suddenly you're tired in a way that's difficult to explain. Then comes uncertainty, questions about the future, questions about identity, questions about purpose, questions about what comes next. And somewhere during that first year, another realization often emerges. You begin recognizing that life is moving forward. Not because you're forgetting your spouse, not because you're replacing them, but because you're still here and life is asking you to keep living. That realization can be beautiful, and it can also feel guilty. Many widows tell me they feel conflicted. Part of them wants to move forward, part of them worries that moving forward somehow means leaving their spouse behind. If you felt that tension, you're not alone. It's incredibly common. And it's one of the reasons I encourage widows to be patient with themselves. You are learning how to carry both love and loss at the same time, and that takes time. So let's talk about what success actually looks like, because many women have unrealistic expectations. They think success means everything's organized, every account's updated, every decision has been made, every emotion has been resolved. That's not realistic. Success looks much simpler. Success looks like understanding where things stand, knowing where your income comes from, knowing who to call when questions arise, having a plan, feeling more confident than you did 6 months ago, feeling less overwhelmed than you did 6 months ago, trusting yourself a little more than you used to. That's success. In fact, one of my favorite things is to witness when a widow says, I think I'm going to be okay. Not because every problem has disappeared, but because confidence has started replacing fear. That's when real transformation begins. One of the greatest privileges of my work is watching women move beyond survival mode. At first, everything revolves around grief and paperwork. Then gradually the conversations change. The woman who once worried about opening the mail starts talking about travel, grandchildren, volunteer work, church activities, new friendships, bucket list experiences. Life begins showing up again. Not exactly the same, but meaningful, rich, hopeful. I've watched women discover strengths they never knew they possessed. I've watched women who once said, I'm not good with money, become remarkably confident decision makers. I've watched women who were terrified of the future build lives they genuinely enjoy. That's why I always remind widows, this chapter of your life may not be the chapter you wanted, but it doesn't have to be the final chapter. There is still more story ahead. If you're listening today and you're somewhere in that first year after losing a spouse, I want to leave you with this thought. The goal of the first year is not perfection. The goal is not finishing every task. The goal is not becoming a financial expert. The goal is simply to make it through the storm. One step, one decision, and one day at a time. And if some days still feel overwhelming, that's okay. And if you're still working through paperwork, that's okay. And if you're still figuring things out, that's okay. You are not behind. You are navigating one of the most difficult transitions life can offer. Give yourself grace, give yourself patience, and remember this. The first year isn't about having all the answers. It's about building enough clarity and confidence to believe that a good future is still possible, because it is. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Navigating Abundant Retirement. If this episode was helpful, please subscribe and share it with someone who may need encouragement today. And until next time, remember, you don't have to navigate the financial seas alone. I'm Carol Dewey, and I will see you in the